All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Over on Rumble mainly. I think the Rumble rants are working here. Cadino Doctor. Thursday, Greg Phillips says he's going to identify and expose all those neo-Nazis that Charlie Kirk's convention. They put up a video. They're supposed to investigate and identify people. I think Tim Ott, and I don't know exactly where that ends off. Okay, hopefully we're actually live. Again, we'll have to make sure. I have my tabs on a different page this time than the Rumble link. So let me pop that over really quick. There we go. And no, that's not what we want at all. This one has to be dragged to the side. Okay. Just a minute, everyone. I'm making sure that everything works here. This should be loaded. Let's see. Yes, we are live on Rumble, and the Rumble rants are live as well. We got a lot to cover today. Quite a few funny news stories. A lot of it is humorous today, so it'll be funny. You're live and working on YouTube, says Wes Jaslin. Yes, YouTube goes live pretty much automatically, Twitch too, but I have to make sure that the Rumble stream is actually live. There is a delay involving it. We've got a lot of things to talk about today. First and foremost, a shout out to $1 Stiffy and Anarcho3D, actually on Twitter. $1 Stiffy fronting me the archive of one of the stories we'll be talking about today, which specifically is the story about Garcia there, a Democrat, calling someone literally borderline retarded. Words that you can't even use on Twitter. I wonder why that tweet was taken down. And Anarcho3D for first antagonizing the bastard. So that'll be a funny one. Lifecock, sup dog, word to your mother. Thank you. And Jenny B. Styx has some luscious locks. Yeah, I do as little as possible with my hair, and this is the way that it looks. If I do too much to it, it lays flat. Doesn't have as much volume. Not that it matters. I'll just shave it all bald in the future, maybe. So far, no hair loss, so I'm thinking I'll probably be a wizard instead of a berserker when I'm over 50. It'll be great. All the gray hairs that are coming in are like that silvery color. You know how sometimes it's like a cloudy gray, and other times it's like straight up platinum? I seem to be blessed with the latter. Although I wish that it would come in on the sides as it is instead of like at random other points on my head. So I'm going to be like a Saruman when I'm 50 or 60 years old. Sounds pretty good to me. We've got a lot of shit to cover here. How many news stories? We have 11 different news stories to cover today. So it's going to be interesting. Sticks the Gray, says Alphabet over on Twitch. Nick F, do you shampoo and condition? I go every other day. I shampoo every other day or every third day, depending on the time schedule, because, of course, I have a recently born child to take care of. I generally do not use conditioner. I find that it's superfluous. It's not really necessary. Anyway, we'll get into the first news story here. And this is a post not archived in the description. If you're watching this on any platform, keep in mind there are links to all of the different things that I'm talking about here. Go and check it out for yourself. Don't take my word for it. I posted, and this revisionist crap is why we archive everything. It is important, trust me. Archive of CNN's racist post, and then the live version. Yes, you remember the other day when I was talking about CNN in the Mega Cope wrap-up for the recession news. And one of the main ones was CNN Business. And their initial story was, what was the exact title? I've got to make sure that it's actually 100% here. Who decides if the U.S. is in a recession? 8 white economists you've never heard of. And I pointed out, this is an insinuation that this is racist. And it's an attempt to defend Joe Biden. Effectively, what you do is you tell the idpol leftoids that, hey, a bunch of whiteys are the ones that are declaring that there's a recession. You don't have to listen to them because of the color of their skin. They have corrected their article now. Now it's called Who Decides If the U.S. is in a Recession? 8 Economists You've Never Heard of. And thankfully, I had the archive of this. The live version is different. And so CNN Business is attempting to cover its ass for its racist anti-white post. Many such cases. This is why whenever you see something that is remotely controversial, you should always archive it. Run it through archive.is. If it doesn't work on archive.is, the best thing to do is run it through the Wayback Machine first, and then take that link and then run it through archive.is. The Wayback Machine has been caught purging political content before. They have been Stalinized, but they are still useful in the sense that their archive works best with many websites. So run it through them first and then archive the archive, which is hilarious to do. Lifecock. That Nancy Pelosi video was unbelievable. Bird bath privilege. Yes, she was saying something about bird baths, and it appears to be in regards to the Bird Amendment, which regards, I guess, budget reconciliation. And but it didn't get across because nobody could tell what the fuck she was saying. This is standard Nancy Pelosi, by the way. So, yes, CNN was trying to cover its ass on its anti-white racist post. To be clear, I oppose anti-white racism because there's a lot of it out there and it's not really helpful in the world. But it is archived for posterity, so it's always going to be there. In fact, I think this one was double archived anyway, so it's double always there. Joseph La Rosa, do you ever get bored or lose motivation? No, I just drink more caffeine and I stay haywire all the friggin' day. Like literally late at night, I'm still drinking the caffeine. It'll be 11 o'clock. I'm still sucking down energy drinks. That's how I roll. Yeah, it may kill me when I'm young, but who cares? I'll be very productive in the meantime. I can do more by noon than the average person does all day and possibly all week. Opinionated junkie, duty to retreat is dumb. People aren't track stars. I agree with you. Kim Anthony. Hi, Sticks. You should listen Monster Magnet's Unbroken. The vocalist gives me the same vibes that you and Razorfist have. Ah, interesting. Monster Magnet. I have to look that up. So yeah, CNN was trying to cover its ass. It didn't work too well, though. You know, we are in the internet era. It's easier for you to post your propaganda and disinformation, CNN. It's also easier for people to hold you accountable for posting it. Yeah, Cam2425IA on Rumble. Is that like the 50 experts who thought Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian misinformation? Yeah, a little bit like that. And Jelly Goatee, Liz and Baby Sticks will care. Don't drink yourself into an early grave. I figured that this is basically happy water, and I do not particularly think that it's medically detrimental to one's health. I think that when I put some lime or lemon in it, it's actually good for you. It's carbonated water with a little bit of happiness sprinkled inside, and then you won't get scurvy. I think that's a good thing. I happen not to believe the meme that caffeine is bad for you, and that's what it is. It's a meme. Second news story, and this is pertinent to Anarcho3D as well, that I posted earlier. Congressman Chuy Garcia, he is a big-time leftoid Democrat, obviously, was posting about how he happily voted for the assault weapons ban. Now, this is a gig. This is basically just a throwaway. They know that it's DOA when it hits the Senate. And as I analyzed this morning, I personally believe that it's nothing more than political theater. That is that they want to have all the members of the House and the Senate on record as having voted against or for the assault weapons ban. Assault weapon being, of course, a very loose term that has no legal bearing in this particular conversation. I realize that, so don't jump down my throat for using the term on their bill. They want people on record because what they intend to do, they can't run on the economy. Now that we're in a recession, especially. They can't run on diplomacy. They can't run on crime. They can't run on the border. The Democrats are hemorrhaging support. They're having real problems. So then you just take up the think of the children line and you put something forth like this and then say, well, you hate kids because you didn't vote for this. They did the same thing with the pit burning bill the other day, which was basically just a cash grab. and it got voted down by the House Republicans. And now they're saying that veterans hate Republicans because they voted against this bill, the CHIPS bill. Oh my God, you voted in favor of China because you opposed tens of billions of dollars in spending that will not actually result in a competition with China for semiconductors and for computer chips. It's a grift. It's really nothing more than that. It's a floor show. And it was responded to by Anarcho3D. This was Congressman Chuy Garcia. I just voted to reinstate the assault weapons ban. Now it's the Senate's turn to pass it and send it to President Biden. Weapons of war have no place in our communities or on our streets. Now, of course, the AR-15 and similar boogeyman weapons are not weapons of war. If they were, they would be mass-produced and they'd be sent to the Ukrainians at taxpayer expense. That's not happening. It's not happening for a reason. Anarcho3D replied, never even heard of this guy, and I won't comply even if his silly law passes. It won't pass, so don't worry about complying with this because it's DOA in the Senate. And the congressman himself, now keep in mind that when Twitter verifies a person, they are endorsing what they talk about. They've made this clear. And his response was, you are borderline retarded, you fucking dipshit. And quickly, either the staffer or the congressman that posted this redacted the tweet, removed the original and the follow-up tweet. This is a little bit of a scandal now, isn't it? Is Twitter going to ban him for using the R word? Because I seem to recall a couple of times having posts removed for that and getting suspended as a result of this. Many others have been kicked off the platform for using the term retarded. Is this congressperson going to be penalized in any way? Of course not. You just say, well, a staffer posted that. Of course, I didn't have anything to do with this. That's what'll happen. Twitter has double standards, gross double standards for independent voices as opposed to authoritative voices. The latter tend to be inconsequential, wrong, and malevolent. The former tend to be pretty intelligent. That's why the former get interrogated by Twitter's various teams more. Aaron C., do you think the Pelosi Taiwan visit is theater? I don't know that there's any confirmation that she's actually visiting Taiwan. China can talk a big game. They're not going to do anything. Honestly, if they fired a Scud missile at Taiwan while she's there and blew her up, nobody would give a shit. The United States wouldn't care, not anyone that has any sense. Taiwan wouldn't care. No, it's par for the course. Oh, goodness, an explosion. It killed one person. The person we don't really want landing on the island and antagonizing the Chinese right now because we don't have nuclear platforms yet. Cisco Sistar. This is one of the very few times I'm up early enough to catch your stream. Take my tithe to the Church of Clank. Pragmatic optimism trumps doomers. Yes, don't be a doomer. Improve yourself. Tyler E. Hey, Sticks, I recall you're familiar with the show Hell of a Boss. You excited for season 2 today? I've been a subscriber since 15. Keep up the good work. I didn't know that the next season was being produced. I had looked at it and saw it was in a gray area last I checked. Yeah, I'll have to fucking check that out. Hair Juicer 3000. Swamp is awesome content while we're doing shout-outs. Orwell's Goon. Wikipedia changing the definition of recession, then changing the definition of definition is peak Orwell. It's also peak Wikipedia. They've been doing that for a long time. Robert Manley, stop talking nonsense. You're too intelligent. Do you want to cheat your daughter out of a dad? Well, no, I don't think that drinking caffeine kills a person. So I'm going to keep drinking the caffeine. It allows me to do a lot of work. Steady Eddie 1983. The left is surprisingly quiet about the possibility of monkeypox mutating and becoming more transmissible. Odds on this are good with exposure. Yes, unfortunately, a relatively mutation-prone disease is going human to human because of wanton sexual contact. That is the result of the swinger lifestyle for the first time. We've never seen monkeypox in this particular transmission venue. Mostly, it's animal to human. And if there's any transmission at all, occasionally it's to a fellow patient or a healthcare worker. It's very, very rare generally because it's not that transmissible without the sexual contact. There's a reason why the head of the WHO said, hey, maybe you want to reduce the number of wanton sexual partners you're having in the next months. Maybe that's a bad idea. Belated, but yeah, I appreciate that they finally came around. Steady Eddie 1983. The left is surprisingly quiet about the possibility of... oh, that was the one I just read. Never mind. Spooky Pen. Clank, clank. Hit the like. Jaden. The CHIPS Act is based on Ursula von der Leyen's EU CHIPS Act, which Schwab called integral to our plan. They are microfluidic photonic quantum semiconductors. They go in your skull. I don't think that'll happen, not as long as you use smartphones. They don't need to put a chip in your skin or in your skull. You carry a chip around with you everywhere you go. It's called a smartphone. I talked about that almost 10 fucking years ago. Corto Maltese. A friend of mine used to down 4 to 6 Red Bulls a day. By his 30s, a doctor was telling him that if he didn't quit, he'd die in a few years. Yeah, well, I don't drink nearly that many, just to be clear. That's just, that's nuts. Especially if they're the sugared ones. If it's sugar-free, of course, at the very least, the diabetes risk is less. Now we've got to talk about the modern-day struggle session. If you want to see a modern-day witch hunt, oh boy, this one is really, really fun. Ben White of Politico, he made an oopsie poopsie, and he had to walk it back. Ben White, over on Twitter. Of course, he's verified too. He'll keep that verification check mark because of this. Yeah, I did a bad tweet a while ago referring to 2 negative quarters in a row as a recession. That's the real definition of a recession, by the way. Should have known better at the time, but it had been a while since I'd studied recession criteria, and that's not it. Nothing to do with giving Biden any kind of break, just accurate now. And he elaborates on that. Wouldn't matter if it were Trump, Obama, Lincoln, or FDR. I'd strive always to get it right. And already said I goofed the old tweet in one line in a column where I should have elaborated on what makes for official recession, NBER, and lots of data points beyond GDP. So, in other words, you have this political reporter, Pryor, saying that 2 negative quarters is a recession. That's the term that's used by the majority of the population, investors, banks, economists, etc. You shouldn't have walked it back, but I mean, you're working for Politico, so you were obviously commanded to do so by your higher-ups that are working directly with Beijing Biden. It is propaganda, to be clear. This is a modern-day struggle session. By the way, look up struggle session and see what you see. The idea is to Stalinize a person's past remarks or opinions in accordance with ever-changing and always in flux new definitions, new realities that have been constructed. So the reality that he was talking about long ago, which is that is the definition of a recession, is no longer in vogue because the powers that be have determined that it's not suitable for the current socioeconomic climate. And so he was forced to walk it back. He took the knee, he knelt, he pulled his pants down, he shit and pissed all over himself like a baby, and he's a pathetic coward. And he should come out, he should say, fuck Politico, I'm not going to back down. We all know what a recession is, and screw yourself. Who gives a fuck? But he didn't choose to do that. So Ben White is a cuck. At Morning Money Ben on Twitter. So remember that if you get anything from him, it can be changed later on. It can be corrected. It can be redacted a little bit in accordance with the Stalinist regime that happens to be currently stewarding in the White House. Nick Santini. Sticks, what is your analysis on Trump wanting to fire 50,000 government employees when he gets back into office? Half true. He wants to fire mainly the higher-ups that are over those employees and then compact the agencies. I support it completely. It's a great idea. I wouldn't even stop there. I'd fire 1 million of them. Edgy Bra, if you see lights in the sky, do not stare at or interact with them. They're not benevolent. Learn and understand what pre-lest is. Be careful what you believe. Don't endlessly question the nature of reality. Very well. If I see lights in the sky, though, well, I'll at least glance at them, just saying. The Night Cleric, work called me on in at 4 a.m., but at least I'm actually able to catch a stream. Thanks for all the videos. Yes, this is the morning show, apparently, for people in the U.S. time zone. Ginny Schaefer, on my way to find affordable eggs at the local farmer's market. Now buy some chickens. They'll be infinitely affordable. Pumpkin Tarot. Read Fruits of Eden. Oh, Red Fruits of Eden. Gave me a good idea for my garden. Chamomile is growing like crazy. Set up for tea this winter. Can't wait for the updated version. Yes, chamomile is definitely good. Lots and lots of herbs. Hendrik, do you know Rick Rillman, a known socialist on YouTube? Never heard of him. So he's probably even more obscure than that Mohawk freak Unruhi, or whatever the fuck his name is. The fat one that has the Apple products. He has like a $10,000 studio setup. He's rambling about the need for communism. So poor Ben White. Poor dude. He has to go through a struggle session. The Stalinists have decided that his prior comments on recession were no longer acceptable, so he has to beg for forgiveness. I did a bad tweet a while ago. I did a bad tweet that was completely based on reality. Let me refer to the new reality that has been constructed by my corporate masters. What a goddamn cuck. Now we'll talk about the assault weapons ban. This is a big one. House passes assault weapons ban that's doomed in the Senate. And this is from NBC. They're pointing it out plain, too. So take it to the bank. The Senate, I would be surprised if they even got all of the Democrats to vote for the assault weapons ban. And I'll tell you why. I realize that assault weapon is in quotes, by the way. I realize it's sporting rifles that are topically enhanced by aesthetic means. The problem is that this was exactly parsed out of the gun control bill, the anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment bill that was passed by the Republicans in part quite some time ago. This was specifically what they took out of that bill in order to allow that to pass, with its red flag law suggestions, its age restrictions on certain types of firearms, which is unconstitutional, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That never would have passed with this particular partition thrown in. It barely passed in the House. Some Democrats actually voted against it, and a couple of Republicans voted for it, tipping it over the edge there. I can't remember that. I think it was Jack Nichols and Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania in the House. And they should be thrown aside, by the way. They should be kicked out of office. To be clear, if you want to eliminate or denigrate in any way any of the constitutional amendments, you shouldn't be in office. The Second Amendment under Bruin has been reiterated as not being subjugate any more than any of the other amendments are. This would be like saying, well, it's like with Hochul's law there, where in New York City or New York at large, businesses are automatically opted into being gun-free areas unless they like put up a sign that says, hey, guns welcome. That would be the equivalent of saying, hey, unless you put a sign up in front of your business, people aren't allowed to talk about religion or politics in your business. We're opting you into the anti-First Amendment club. And unless you put up a sign, you're going to stay in that club and people can be prosecuted, even if you just forgot to put up the sign and don't have a problem with it. That's basically what it boils down to. To be clear, an assault weapons ban would immediately be injuncted. It would go before SCOTUS. It would be shot down under the current iteration of the court. It's not going to happen. I almost hope that occurs. I'm almost wishing that the Senate had the votes to pass this just so that the Supreme Court could shoot it down and kill it forever. Unfortunately, there aren't enough votes in the Senate, and so it even falls flat there. It won't go forth before Biden's desk. He has failed once again, along with idiots like AOC and Klobuchar. Brian Zvart, enjoying the daily live streams. I stopped only going to corporate grocery stores. Only mom and pop operations get my money. Good. Online sales are always acceptable too. You can't get asafoetida unless you go to the hippie co-op. Michael Baker, Democrat tree tried to blow up a substation providing power to the Keystone Pipeline on July 17th. Interesting. Shoeless Joe. Sticks, what is your favorite settlement in Fallout 4? I like this question. Well, I mean, it sort of depends. I really like the Slog, actually. That's one that usually gets lowly rated, but it's extremely rectangular, and it's very, very easy to build an outer defensive wall with, platforms for turrets, and it's no muss, no fuss. It also has a reasonable area for growing shit. I'd say that one. The only problem being that just just east of that location, you do get enemy spawns, and they constantly engage the turrets. And then there are the people over at the forge, literally, that occasionally end up sparring with transports of goods with the merchants. And then they end up coming over and attacking people, and all of your settlers decide to go haywire. So the location isn't great. The design is. Hair Juicer 3000. Speaking of gun control, I've been making lots of guns and gun accessories. 3D printing fumes are real and have made me extremely sick recently. Get a good filter. Get a good exhaust system there. Branch Covidian 19. There is a lawsuit against an assault weapon ban in Maryland, if I'm not mistaken. I think we should be getting a ruling on it soon, too. I have a feeling it'll go pro-gun. I don't know of any comparable attack on the anti-gunners in Vermont, though. Vermont has a mag restriction ban and various other problematic gun control. I don't know. I haven't seen any update about that from the Gun Owners of America or the Firearms Coalition or anyone. I don't know if there's anything going on in Vermont. They've got extreme gun control. Next story, it actually comes from Tucker Carlson. As for all of you Tucker fans out there, I've got something positive to say about him. I realize he may be working for the legacy media, etc., etc. But this one, I support it. The results are in. Monkeypox will now officially be called Schlong COVID. It's a play on the term long COVID, of course. I like this one. That's good memetics, good linguistics, Tucker. I think this is definitely a win. And it is basically the same. You've got a disease that's not particularly virulent. It's spread as an STD, especially by, penile action up the anus. Whether it's gay or straight makes no difference, although they are trying to claim that it's homophobic if you have a problem with monkeypox. None of the responses to the monkeypox epidemic, by the way, will actually work other than, hey, tell people to stop fucking each other in the ass for a couple of months. That's all you have to do. It doesn't matter, gay, straight, swinging around and bi or whatever. Just stop. Just for a couple of months. Give it a rest. Use a condom if you really, you have to fuck somebody in the ass because you just can't help yourself. Use a condom. And it is Schlong COVID. When you think of it, the trajectory of this disease is primarily through male sexual action involving the anus. That's the truth. That's like 90+% of all of these cases. There is a way to reduce the number of cases to such a low threshold that it burns itself out. It's not otherwise particularly transmissible. The respiratory transmission of monkeypox has never, for instance, been really a problem in a medical setting in prior outbreaks in West or even Central Africa. We're just lucky. This is the West African strain. The West African strain has a death rate considerably lower than the Central African strain. So be very, very glad that whatever sex tourist went to Nigeria instead of the Congo in order to get their jollies off before going back to Belgium for the Swingers Convention. Be very, very happy that they chose to do that. Stephen Nizik. I am quite proud of my Fallout 4 playthrough. Inherited my son's synths, ended the Brotherhoods destroying my stuff, and the railroads stealing my stuff. Plus, I feel like I'm helping Preston with the settlement issue. I prefer to side with the Minutemen, but it is problematic because in real life, you could probably screw your own son over and tell him, yeah, you have so many good ideas, everything's fine. You become the leader of the Institute, but you try to negotiate some situation where you're not also fucking the Brotherhood, because the Brotherhood is running vertibirds and shit and squads all over the Commonwealth, and they're bullseyeing ghouls and raiders and shit like that. They're actually helping people. The Minutemen, meanwhile, are rearming. They're helping people. About the only group in the Commonwealth that doesn't give a shit about people generally is the Railroad. They'll only kill these people if they get in the way of synth escapees. Once the Institute's destroyed, they really don't have a purpose other than they send you to go after a certain raider group that really hates synths or something like that. Ultimately, I side with the Minutemen. You can make those settlements pretty great, by the way. It takes a long time, but it's worth it. You can do some interior design too. I had a fucking museum on Spectacle Island, actually, made out of farm pieces, and it was 3 stories tall, fully lit, and everything else. It was pretty great. I put all of the unique shit that I found when I was going out on missions in display boxes and stuff. I don't know. One of the most fun things about Fallout 3 was decorating your house, but there were no display boxes. There was no custom housing. KRS, I side with the Disciples Raider gang. Well, at least it's the Disciples and not the pack. Bretling on Twitch. Condoms prevent direct skin-to-skin contact, contact with blood from anal or rectal tears, contact with spooge, etc. Unless they rip. And that's really the problem. If you're going in dry, there might be a little bit of a problem there. It'd be better just to tell people, take 6 weeks or 8 weeks and just don't fuck in the ass. That's all you have to do. Gay, straight, swinger, monogamous relationship. Take the no ass pledge just for 8 weeks. That's all you have to do, and the problem goes away. But that would be politically incorrect because it would be immediately associated by the idpol left with homosexuality. So they're not allowed to do that. Now, the next news story from CNN Business. You know, the racists at CNN. It's not the same author. This is Nadine Schmidt and Lauren Kent, so they get a pass. They're not the same as the racists that did the one about the white economists. Cold showers and no lights. How one German city is fighting Russia's energy battle. Yes, Europeans have begun reverting to the Stone Age in order to own the Russians. Now, I'll say this. If I had a goodly piece of land, let's say instead of, the little courtyard garden we got, it's nice. I've got grapevines, I've got flowers, I've got a wisteria, got an apple tree. It made exactly one apple. It's kind of fucked up by aphids, but if I had more land, like let's say we had a good acre in Friesland or something, I'd be willing to put up a nice little medieval garden and say, you know what, we're going to take some time off from being in modernity. And other than using the internet to, literally make money for gardening purposes, fuck it. We're just going to use gas lamps and shit like that. And it would be kind of cozy. You can read books by gas lamp or by candle or whatever. And you can grow your crops and spend 10 hours a day garden weaseling them because there's literally nothing more calming in the world. That'd be fine. But now you have urbanized cities and towns in parts of Germany, and they're the first ones to do this as far as I know, saying you're not allowed to use hot water. The German city of Hanover has banned hot water in public buildings and introduced measures to reduce heating and energy uses as Europe faces a potential natural gas crisis this winter. Every kilowatt hour saved saves the gas storage tank, says the mayor's office in a news release on Wednesday. Now, there are several problems. The first problem is that Russia has not shut off the spigot of gas yet. This is preparatory. You don't know that they're actually going to do that at all. Second problem is, why the fuck did you ever structure yourselves to be reliant on Russian natural gas? Why did you choose to do that? It's Greek to me. Well, German to me, I suppose. The goal is to reduce our energy consumption by 15%, said Mayor Belet One. I bet that your McMansion still has hot water. I'll bet anything that you still have it. You'll be like Lori Lightfoot, that moron in Chicago. Well, why did I decide to break the quarantine and go out during lockdowns to get my hair did? Well, I go on TV regularly. I'm the mayor, so it's different for me. It's NIMBYist horseshit. Earlier this week, Gazprom slashed deliveries through the pipeline again to just 20% of capacity, citing maintenance work. So the Russians do maintenance work. You immediately assume that it's an act of war, and then you tell people, you're not allowed to have hot water. That's really going to work. The Sinister Siblings. There's a mod on Fallout 4 titled America Rising, A Tale of the Enclave. It's getting a massive update soon, and I enjoy playing as a member given the male playable character's past. Interesting. I'm always in the mood for new mods. At some point in the future, probably years in the future, since I have a baby now, I would like to do another Fallout 4 campaign. Battle Elf, is Lady Booty still safe? I don't know what that is. Miku Forex Bot, will we clank on other streams on election night? Probably. Yeah, the Young Turks come to mind. We did that before in 2018, and it was a good time had by all. I didn't even organize that one. It was just people organically fucking showing up. I guess there was a 4chan or Reddit thread or something. All of a sudden, hundreds of people were clanking. I was sitting there laughing till I was crying almost. Chris Primer, if you eat the boobs, you will be happy sticks. No more colonizer coffee and cow exploitation for you. Rectal Ranger, condoms don't stop crabs. Their pinchers are sharp. How are the cat sticks? If I recall, one turned evil and isn't allowed in your lair now. This is the evil cat right here, actually. She's the one that that messes up sometimes. But she's still fuzzy and cute, so whatever. Now we've got the Israeli national news. Aretz Sheva. From August 1st, cash transactions above NIS 6,000 illegal. Shekels, literally. The jokes write themselves. Yeah, that's about $1,400 or thereabouts, if I remember correctly. Do they have a comparison here? Somebody was saying it was about $1,400. So in Israel now, you're going to be jailed potentially or fined or at least looked into if you try to do a cash transaction with the country's own money that the government literally stamps, signs off on, and says is pertinent for purchasing purposes. You will be legally problematic if you try to use more than $1,500 of those pieces of money to do anything. So car, well, you've got to do it on credit, I guess, or do it digitally. Everything's going to be digital. Now, the excuse for this is we're moving to a cashless society for the purposes of money laundering and criminal activity and things like this. May I please ask something? Do you not think that Uncle Adolf would have loved it if he had had a cashless society thing going on? Oh, God, I can trace every transaction. I can make sure that people are loyal. You bought the wrong food. I see you haven't bought enough pork over the last month. You're going to the concentration camp. Wouldn't Joseph Stalin have loved this too? Oh my goodness, you bought this Ukrainian language book. Well, don't you know you're only supposed to speak Russian? Fuck you, you're going in the gulag. They would have loved this shit. It's fascist horse shit. And it's basically, it began, I think, in Scandinavia, of all places. I think it really starts in the axis of evil up in Sweden, if I remember correctly. And it's spread since then. The EU at large has adopted a similar kind of premise. Here in the Netherlands, it's certainly a thing. There are stores you can go to here in the Netherlands. You cannot use cash. Now, my opinion, my assumption, rather, is that if you had euros, they've been signed, they've got security features, they're there for a reason. It's the due currency of the countries that comprise the Eurozone. It's used for purchasing purposes. The US dollar in the United States, the Canadian dollar, the Russian ruble, the Chinese yuan, and the Israeli shekel. My assumption was that if a government is issuing currency, that currency would actually be accepted for transactions. Unfortunately, more and more countries are moving to a system where without your smartphone, you can't even go to the fucking goddamn store. You should see it again. There was an Albert Heijn back in Diemen, where we used to be, and they stopped accepting cash transactions at all. It was card only. So if you didn't have your debit or credit card or your phone hooked up to like Google Pay or Apple Money or whatever the fuck it's called, you couldn't even buy groceries there. You could at other stores that were nearby, but you couldn't do it there. And they used the excuse that they got broken into. At one point, the window out front was shattered, and they removed the ATM that had been in there, which really inconvenienced me because the only other one that was close was twice as far away. And I had to go to that in order to withdraw money. And I mean, it was weird because like, okay, I literally cannot use money in your store. I've got money in my wallet. You quite literally will not accept it. That's rather strange. This is fascism. It's an attempt to control your buying, your purchases, and so forth. To get you reliant on a handful of tech companies that will report your behavior to the government, number one, and will censor you and literally remove you from their service if you buy something wrong, number two. If this comes to the US, it will absolutely be used to deny people transactions involving firearms. It will be used to deny people transactions involved with charities that the lame establishment doesn't like. And it's very, very strange to me that the Jewish state of all states would adopt such a situation with the automatic fascism that goes along with it. With the pig and a pokeism of we've got to stop money laundering. How much money laundering fucking goes on there? How many people are grifting and rubbing their greedy hands together, stuffing their pockets full of money, and then going and laundering it by buying a luxury car and then flipping it for digital purposes or something? Do you have a systemic problem with crime in your country so much that people can't even be trusted to go to the fucking grocery store with the shekels? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You're almost indicting your own population at some point. Not that it's a surprise. Tom Paulin, Sticks, have you ever played Subnautica or Below Zero? No, I've never heard of them. Edgy Bra, last thing about the lights, and then I, seemingly crazy guy, will leave. They seem to be some sort of control system, not aliens. That is all. Battle Elf, is Lady Ass still safe? I would hope so. Joe C, which do you prefer, Nuka-Cola or Sunset Sarsaparilla? The world needs to know. Prefer Nuka's variety myself. I like Nuka-Cola Quantums because they glow in the dark. Very good for decorating your player housing. Ken Kurihara sent $1 with no comment. Thank you. Metalhead Madman, why do communists drink herbal tea? Property is theft. They drink herbal tea because unless they go out into the hinterlands of Siberia and find herbs, then they can't find anything else to drink. Cordo Maltese, Israel are very authoritarian, just like any religious state. They're just more subtle about it. Yeah, but this isn't even subtle. Cashless society is a grift, everyone. You should definitely fight back against it. It's an attempt to prevent you from being able to be a true independent citizen. Maxwell with Schools, would you be interested in going on the PKA podcast? Sam Hyde briefly mentioned you when he went on there a while back. Yeah, I guess so. Getting Hillary Clinton here. Okay, so that's their authoritarianism. The next one, the two people hoping to replace Boris Johnson would rather not talk about Brexit. Yes, Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss, both trying to replace the prime ministership of Boris Johnson. I think people will miss him when he's gone, even if he is a fucking hypocrite. They don't want to talk about Brexit and their thoughts on it. What a betrayal. You've left the European Union. You've established your sovereignty. Years and years later, you people are still pretending like it's a bad thing, like it's some sort of a bad joke or secret to hide in a closet. I know the British are very good at that. Oh, we've got the member of our family with half of their teeth. Well, we keep them in the attic or something like this, like to be prim and proper and all this horseshit. And Liz Truss, ultimately, I think, is the one with more intelligence. But that's not saying much considering Sunak and his particular problems. I don't think either of them is really qualified to lead the UK. Ultimately, if I was British, I would just abstain. I wouldn't vote for either of these morons because neither of them makes any sense. Truss has constant verbal problems, and Sunak has constant hypocrisy problems. Who the fuck is going to lead the British people? You should probably beg for Boris Johnson to just unstand down and unresign or something like that. Deal with the hypocrisy. It's even better than the alternative. The British people are fucked at this rate. And then you've got the Labour Party and similar parties. They're not going to help you. They'll do even worse. Holy shit. So, yeah, they don't want to talk about Brexit. I wonder why. Next story, Eye on the News from CJ. Not a national model, a national warning. Gavin Newsom's bravado about California is undermined by reality. Yes, indeed. I'm not going to bother going through the article at large, but I'll give you long story short. Long story short is that California is completely dysfunctional. You have economic problems. You certainly have a crime problem. You have systemic government corruption. You'll remember Gavin Newsom violating his own lockdown orders multiple times to go mill about with his wealthy friends, and his non-reaction thereafter was, oh, yeah, I made a mistake. I'm really sorry about that. I know he was sorry that he got caught, essentially. California is a state for the rich, by the rich, and by nobody else. Farmers get fucked. Even businesses get fucked, even if they're reasonably large businesses. The only people in California that do well, big-time industries, including Silicon Valley, that get a write-off on the state tax rate by the people of California. The taxpayers of California pay for that in part. The taxpayers of the rest of the U.S. pay for the rest of that. So they don't pay any taxes. For billionaires, Google, Facebook, etc., all based in the same area in Southern California. And San Francisco is rotting away. It's basically like a shit-filled corpse. Gavin Newsom is a hypocrite. He's a grandstander. He's putting out ads in fucking Texas and places like that and in Florida to try to plop shade on potential rivals, I guess, for 24. Clearly, he has some presidential ambitions. I just think that it's not going to work out. Zen Toaster, hey Sticks, what's your favorite Black Sabbath album? I like them all. I don't have a favorite. Battle Elf, what type of breakfast taco would you be? Well, I made one for Jill Biden. It was basically just an uncooked wrap with mayonnaise. I like to think I'm a little bit spicier than that. So take a taco wrap, put mayonnaise in it, but then douse it with habanero salsa. I guess that's me. Put a bunch of lentils in there just to show my denunciation of the far left. Now we've got a really funny one, by the way. Biden admin quietly approves construction of U.S.-Mexico border wall near Yuma, Arizona. Joe Biden previously admonished Donald Trump over the wall and his immigration policies. Yes, you heard it here. Joe Biden, the wall builder. He's actually funding and constructing the Trump wall. He's realized that it's a good idea. The plan includes filling 4 major gaps in the wall that continue to allow the Yuma area to be one of the busiest corridors for the illegal immigration's crossings. The Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas authorized the new plan, which was started by the Trump administration, in an effort to deploy modern, effective border measures and improve safety and security along the southwest border, the agency said. Can I ask AOC, Ilhan Omar, Bernie Sanders, etc. You spent several years screaming about no human is illegal, the border wall is a waste of money, it won't do anything, it's reprehensible, it's ethnocentric and wrong in every possible way. You're a racist because you want to guard the southern border. Am I going to hear similar chatter against the Beijing Biden administration, or are you going to sit down and be silent because you're a bunch of fucking hypocrite losers? I'm going to go with the latter. I have a feeling that that's what's going to happen. Yuma's border sector remains an unsolved issue for the Biden administration as Border Patrol agents have already stopped migrants more than 160,000 times from January through June in the sector this year. 160,000 people in a very, very small area near Yuma. Oh, I wonder why he insists that maybe you should close those border gaps. Biden's decision to secure the border wall comes after Senator Mark Kelly, Democrat, by the way, from Arizona, has called on the president to secure the border. Republican lawmakers have made similar calls. You were underway doing this, and then you decided to honk fire the guy that was actually getting it done after spending several years not even funding the wall. That goes for the Republicans, too. In the past, Biden was repeatedly critical of Trump, his border wall, and his immigration policies, which he referred to as xenophobic and racist. So I guess Biden is xenophobic and racist. He doesn't want all those brown people coming up. I'll tell you what this is. In both Arizona and Texas, Abbott and what's their name in Arizona have started taking illegals and offering them one-way trip tickets on bus to D.C. That will bring us, by the way, to the last news story we'll cover. Bowser asks for National Guard to assist with migrants arriving in D.C. and says city is at a tipping point. Yes, indeed, thousands and thousands of illegals have been bused to D.C. This is right in Biden's neck of the woods. I know he also likes to go to Delaware. I'm thinking they should start busing some of them to Rehoboth Beach in Delaware. I think that would be a good thing. Tell them, hey, look at that mansion over there. It's got like 17 different bedrooms. I'm sure that they can find room for you. Just knock on the front door. Imagine how well that would go over. I encourage the people in the southern border states that are willing to do so, in Texas and Arizona namely, to do that. Bus them in, not to D.C., but also to Delaware. It has plenty of farmland, and it's an industrial hellscape, but there's some shit to do there, and Biden's there. You can shake his hand. Why don't you bus them into a Rehoboth Beach? But the thing is this. The situation is this. The southern border is completely unguarded. The fact is that Trump attempted to close the border. He had a great deal of success, but he was stymied in it. And then even though $1 billion additional was already allocated when he left his office, the last legitimate office that's been held there, it was not used for over a year by the Biden administration. The Ballard Wall is still there, laying there in the sand, rusting over time. The equipment's there, the money's there, the manpower potentially is there, and these people decided to do nothing. But now all of a sudden you've got a big political problem. You've got so many illegals, they're not migrants, they're illegals, coming up from the southern border. that it's becoming a political issue. So now all of a sudden they want to close the border again. I think they should be forced to take all these people into their own homes. Branch Covidian 19, Sticks, do you think we'll get to a point where Democrats give up on gun control as an issue? If so, when do you think we'll get there? Authoritarians will never give up on attempting to denigrate your rights. All of them. The right to speak, the right to assemble, the right to arm yourself, the rights of the states to do their own thing, the right to a free and a fair trial. That's been hazarded. Certainly look at the January 6th defendants. They will never stop attacking your rights. You have to fend them off at every possible opportunity. There will always be lemmings that work on behalf of the tyrants of the world. They will use them like pawns endlessly. Ozzy the Terrible, Brit should throw tea in the harbor and start anew. If they didn't have tea, they wouldn't have anything. Metalhead Madman, that was my bad attempt at a commie joke. My bad, lol. Baker Boy, hey Sticks, a bit off topic, but do you have a favorite Soul Calibur game? I've been replaying Soul Calibur 2, and it was really amazing for its time. I don't think I've ever played any of them, actually. Michael Baker sent 166, no comment, thank you. And yeah, so here's the last news story. Bowser asks for National Guard to assist with migrants arriving in D.C., says the city is at a tipping point. Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser. Bowser is the funniest possible surname she could have, by the way. You know that turtle demon from Super Mario? Has issued a request for aid from the D.C. National Guard to help with migrants entering the city by bus, according to a letter obtained by CNN affiliate WUSA. The buses transporting the migrants originating in Texas and other states, mainly Arizona, were sent to Washington starting in April. The mayor's office says the city is now at a tipping point. According to the office of Texas Governor Greg Abbott, a Republican, more than 5,100 migrants have arrived in Washington from Texas on more than 135 buses. The city has facilitated the help of Federal Emergency Management Agency with a $1 million grant, the mayor said at a news conference, following a ribbon-cutting ceremony on Thursday. However, city officials and non-government organizations have been increasingly concerned about the pace of arrivals over recent weeks. The mayor's office is requesting to convert the D.C. Armory, Joint Base Bowling, Fort McNair, or other suitable federal locations in the National Capital Region into a processing center for the migrants. The Regional Welcome Center, established to aid the migrants in Montgomery County, Maryland, is at capacity, according to the request. Oh my God, you're at processing capacity? You don't want these people around you? I think they should camp out on your front yard. You want them in the country so much, but you don't want them processed there? They're allowed to be literally anywhere else other than where the nimbiest fuckwads are. This happens so commonly. You'll have some liberal nimbiest in the McMansion class or the penthouse class. The two are slightly different. And they say, well, think of the children. We need to allow everyone in. But the second that someone, for political reasons, I mean, Greg Abbott clearly is doing this for political reasons. I don't deny that. It's just funny ones. Puts them on a bus and sends them to your community, to your McMansion gated community, to your penthouse community. All of a sudden, you need the National fucking Guard. So if Greg Abbott says, hey, we need the National Guard along the southern border, the situation is untenable, you call him a racist. You say that's terrible. Oh my God, you want dudes with big guns on the southern border. That's illegal. It's unconstitutional. You're trying to deprive people of their human rights. But if they are sent to DC, all of a sudden you need the Guard there. You need to literally convert a military base into a processing facility. Well, you should be able to make do, right? You said these people are a net benefit to every society they're part of. Greg Abbott is giving a big gift to DC by sending them there, right? Over 5,000 people that will diversify everything in your shit city stay, right? Should be fine. I'm a song. Funnily, I think Soul Calibur 2 was the one I played the least, but I've been having fun with 4 and Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate as Sophidia. What the bleep? Do you think gun prices will come down after the midterms? Is it smart to wait until then to buy some popular things to ban? Well, as soon as I'm back in the US, I'm buying at least 2 guns. I haven't decided which ones yet. I'm inclined to get an AR-15 just because it triggers the lib, so to speak, even though I wouldn't use it probably. I really want a .357 revolver. I like guns. They're fun. Corto Maltese, one can be authoritarian and still protect firearm ownership, free speech, and personal privacy. I'm an authoritarian. Well, no, if you're an authoritarian, then you only believe in those things fundamentally for yourself, and this is the folly of authoritarianism. Everyone is libertarian when it comes to themselves. They don't want to be enslaved. Well, I mean, they might be like a sadomasochist or something, but beyond sexual reasoning, they don't want to be tied up or put in shackles or anything else. The problem is that we have a busybody society in which people do not extend the same courtesy to other people. So you have a difference of agreement with another person. You expect them to respect your opinion, but you don't expect them to, but you expect them to respect your opinion. You have a difference of opinion on some issue, a religion or whatever the hell it happens to be. But you are incensed. You take offense to the fact that they would expect the same from you. And then you argue self-evidence. Well, I'm clearly correct because I think that I'm correct. This is busybody society. It's the root of NIMBYism, and it's evil. People need to get the fuck past that shit. Abaddon 380, a shame there's no AR-15 that has 357 Magnum. That'd be kind of derpy. I also want an M14 style rifle in 308. That's a little bit more powerful than the AR-15. I get recommendations pretty much every stream on types of guns to buy. No worries, though. I'll be getting all sorts of good shit. It's going to be great. Target practice for hours and hours. I happen to be part of the Glock family when it comes to handguns, to be clear. That's my choice. I prefer it to be rugged and highly dependable. I don't need it to have some aesthetic bells and whistles like certain others have. Sig Sauer. Now, I'll stick with Glock because I know it works. I've got a couple of them. The Joshman sticks, I believe secession 2025 is inevitable. The propaganda from the deep state regarding the GOP is a setup to block Trump from the White House. 2024 will be the most fortified election ever. I disagree. Defortification has happened in several states, and we're about to go into a midterms. It's going to be very, very messy. We need to see what happens in the midterms before we see how great the globalists attempt to fortify more than one election at a time are. Because that's what happened in 2020. The fortification only happened in one of the elections. The fortifiers lost a state house, even though they were attempting to pick off 5 of them. They lost all 5 of those and lost an additional one. They lost the House considerably. They lost a huge number of seats. They lost some Senate seats. They lost gubernatorial slots. They lost everything, basically, except for one particular race that they were extremely interested in. Well, that may or may not happen the next time around. Texman81, take a look at the Ruger Mini 14 when you get back. Excellent 5.56 semi-auto. Yeah, 5.56 is not powerful enough. I'd rather have 308. I want something like that. Anyway, I'm going to go offline now. We're running up on an hour. I would keep it a little bit longer, but today, I've got a brief period of time where the baby is not actually here. So I can live stream and I don't have to worry about being distracted or anything. So please no more super chats here. There is one more here. Stephen, Nizak, Luger, and Ruger are named because the Luger goes in your left hand and the Ruger goes in your right hand. Ozzy the Terrible, Jennifer Zhang reports CCP Cali invasion before November. I don't give a shit. No, the Chinese are not going to invade California. God, even California has enough weapons to repulse an invasion. I just think they need more weapons. They need Gatling guns and Browning machine guns and everything. They need high-capacity magazines, so-called, explosives and flamethrowers and all the other good things in life. Everyone should have a couple. In fact, I think we should mandate gun ownership under a new militia act that takes off the one from the late 1700s. Initially, men that were 18 to, 55 or 65 or something, they were required to have a musket. And or rifle, and sufficient ammo and powder, and to know how to use it. They're required to take part in that. I think we should return to that. We should have more of a Swiss style, a more laissez-faire, laid-back Swiss style with lots and lots and lots of domestic gun production. And everyone should fucking hand load and have knives and swords and shit everywhere. Everyone should be armed to the teeth all the time. There wouldn't be much crime anymore. I think that's the best possible America. You want to be a philanthropist? You made billions of dollars? Spend $1 billion to arm the ghetto and watch as the drug crime rate plummets. Watch as all the gangs disappear because every person that they try to victimize happens to have a handgun. Boy, that would be great. So yeah, I'm going to go offline now. We're running up on an hour again, and the cat's getting all goofy down here, so I suppose I should probably pet her. That's about all. Peace out.